Hey guys, this is Mr. V and this is APES Review Video, topic 5.16 on aquaculture. So aquaculture is going to be, we mentioned in a previous video about how overharvesting can be done, and the ocean tends to be a big tragedy of the commons. Well, one way we can mitigate this problem, right? Mitigate means to make it less, is to use aquaculture. And that's the idea that you can grow fish almost in a farm situation. So you have these pens, and they can be grown for consumption. And it's typically going to be marine food, but can also be done with fresh water as well. So some of the pros of this, some of the things that are positive, is that you're going to be able to let it expand because it's very efficient. It uses a very small area of water and space. And then, of course, you're going to have a very low amount of fuel necessary. All you have to do is set it up, and then you can almost leave it. So that's going to be some of the benefits. But unfortunately, there's downsides to it. So the number one thing is it's going to end up contaminating it with wastewater. Okay, that's going to end up creating a lot of, because if you have a lot of fish in a small area, they're going to have a ton of waste, and those captive fish sometimes can escape. And if you don't want them to breed, if they're not from that area, that can be an issue as well, leading to introduced and invasive species. And then, of course, because of the density in that area that you're growing that small amount of fish, you can end up having disease pop up, and that can spread to fish locally that are close by. So you don't want to end up with those. So that's where you end up with downsides. So here's an example of typical aquaculture and how it can be done. You can see that you can have you can put your fish meal in there as food, and then you're going to end up having to put some sort of antibiotics to make sure that you don't end up getting your fish sick. Now, of course, you may end up with escaped fish or disease or parasites as well, and that waste is going to build up. And then, of course, when you have a large amount of these fish, that likely will end up bringing in predators. And so those are some of the issues you may want to avoid with aquaculture. So one of the ways to do this is to do this sustainably. So this is an example of a shellfish farm. So you'd grow the shellfish, but what you do is you end up having other animals around that would eat the waste to make sure that you mitigate that problem. Okay, you can provide habitats for some of the others that might remove that. That'll also remove the need for your antibiotics as well. And then you have other fish stocks, and you can also grow certain seaweeds and things like that that'll help filter the water out as well. So you can end up doing both and end up maximizing your profit. Now, of course, the reason people don't do these kind of things is because they're complicated and you have to have very balanced systems. So that becomes a challenge that you have to face there. So here's some other resources on aquaculture that you might be able to look at and gather more info. So hopefully that's helpful, and hopefully this was helpful. Thank you very much.